Today, we are diving into the absolutely incredible life of Nancy Ward. She was a warrior, a diplomat, and a political leader, and her story is just woven right into the fabric of both Cherokee and American history. She was this figure of immense power, but also, as you'll see, deep controversy, who had to navigate a world of constant conflict with a really singular vision for peace.
Now think about this quote for a second. In 1781, she's not saying this to her own people. She's saying it directly to American treaty commissioners. With these words, she is completely challenging their entire patriarchal worldview. She's reminding them, hey, we are your mothers, you are our sons, which is a fundamental part of Cherokee society, and she's using that authority to plead for peace. This right here, this sets the stage for her entire life's work.
So, Nanyehi, as she was known, was born around 1738 in Shota, which was the Cherokee mother town, a place of sanctuary, a place of immense political power. But the world she grew up in was just simmering with tension as European settlers kept pushing further and further into Cherokee lands. This constant threat, this was the pressure cooker that would shape her entire life. And get this, long before she was ever a diplomat, she was a warrior. I mean, a real warrior. During a brutal battle in 1755 against the rival Creek people, a teenage Nanyehi wasn't sitting on the sidelines. No way. She was deep in the fight, right there beside her husband. There's even a legend that she would chew his lead bullets to flatten them out, making them more lethal. And then came the moment that changed everything. Her husband was killed, the battle seemed completely lost, but instead of retreating, what does Nanyehi do? She grabs his rifle. She leads a charge that rallies the Cherokee warriors, and they turn the tide, winning a stunning, unbelievable victory. In that one instant, she goes from being a warrior's wife to a true battlefield legend. So that singular act of valor, that moment on the battlefield, it didn't just earn her respect. Nope. It earned her the highest honor a Cherokee woman could ever achieve. She was named Giga, or Beloved Woman. And this was not just some ceremonial title. It gave her a voting seat on the Council of Chiefs. It made her the head of the powerful Women's Council. And maybe most importantly, it gave her the absolute authority to decide the fate of prisoners. I mean, absolute power. She was now, without a doubt, one of the most powerful people in the entire Cherokee Nation. So when the American Revolution explodes, the Cherokee are caught in a terrible position. Most of them, including her own cousin, the fierce war chief Dragon Canoe, sided with the British. They were determined to drive the settlers out for good. But Nancy Ward, she saw a different path forward, a much more difficult and treacherous one, the path of diplomacy. Okay, so picture this. It's 1776. A settler named Lydia Bean gets captured during a raid. She is tied to a stake, and she is literally about to be burned alive. At the very last moment, Nancy Ward arrives and she invokes her authority as beloved woman and spares the woman's life. It was just this incredible, dramatic exercise of her power. And in gratitude, Lydia Bean actually stayed with Ward, and they formed a friendship that would go on to change Cherokee society forever. You see, Lydia Bean taught Nancy Ward how to raise cattle and make butter and cheese. Ward then took these skills, along with new loom weaving techniques, and she taught them to her people. So that one act of mercy didn't just save a single life, it introduced a whole new, stable food source and industry into the Cherokee economy. It's amazing. All right, let's fast forward a few decades. The fight has shifted. It's not happening on the battlefields anymore. By the early 1800s, it had become a political struggle for survival, as the U.S. government was just relentlessly pressuring the Cherokee to sell off their ancestral lands. To resist this, the Cherokee turned to a new kind of weapon, the political petition. Between 1817 and 1819, both men and women were drafting these powerful documents to protest the land sales. But, and this is the really key part, their strategies were completely different. The petitions from the Cherokee men mostly adopted the language of assimilation. They were hoping to appeal to the U.S. government on its own terms. But the women, led by Ward, they did something way more clever. They wove that same civilized language of farming and domestic life together with these powerful appeals to their traditional authority as mothers of the nation. It was like they were speaking two languages at once, one to their own people and one to the Americans. There's actually a term for this brilliant strategy. It's called mimicry. And it's not about surrendering to a dominant culture. No, it's about strategically adopting its language and customs as a form of resistance. It's a way to fight from the inside. The Cherokee women weren't just assimilating. They were basically using the master's tools to defend their own house.
And just look at this 1817 message from an ailing Nancy Ward to the council. She tells them, enlarge your farms. That's language aimed squarely at American ears. But in the same breath, she adds, we, your mothers and sisters, will make clothing for you. And that is a direct appeal to her traditional matrilineal authority. See what she's doing? It's just a brilliant strategy in a nutshell.
But, despite these incredibly sophisticated political efforts, the pressure from the United States was just relentless, and this led to the final, tragic chapters of Nancy Ward's life. In 1819, a massive land cession was signed, and Nancy Ward was forced to leave Chota, her beloved mother town. But even then, she didn't give up. She was so resilient, she moved south, opened an inn on the Ocoee River, and just kept on serving her community until her death around 1822. But her story doesn't really end there. Cherokee oral history says that in her final years, Nancy Ward had a prophetic vision. She kept seeing her people, forced from their homes, marching west in this long, sorrowful line, with soldiers watching over them. It was a chilling, heartbreaking premonition of the Trail of Tears, a tragedy that would happen just over a decade after she died. Even her physical legacy is just filled with complication. I mean, look at this statue. It was carved in 1906, and it was meant for her grave. But instead, it was somehow misplaced on the grave of a young white woman, where it stood for 70 years before being stolen in the 1980s. When it finally popped up again, it was as this celebrated piece of folk art. It's a strange, turbulent, and displaced journey that really seems like the perfect metaphor for the complex life of the woman it represents. So, what is Nancy Ward's legacy? How do we remember her? Was she a pragmatic savior, a diplomat who used every single tool she had, from a rifle to a petition, to try and ensure her people's survival? Or was she a cultural compromiser whose attempts to build bridges maybe inadvertently weakened the Cherokee position? Her life forces us to ask a really difficult question. In the face of overwhelming change, what's the line between adaptation and surrender? And that's a question that we're all still debating today.